Welcome to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Walston. And in this space, we navigate life together. We ask the hard questions like, what is the truth you haven't told? But most importantly, we grow together. And sometimes that leads to a change of heart. Hey everyone, welcome back to A Change of Heart podcast. I'm your host, Angel Walston, and I'm super excited to jump into today's topic. It is currently raining where I'm at. I don't know if you all can hear it in the background, but hopefully it'll be soothing white noise for you as we discuss the topic of how to find your purpose in an influencer-driven world. But before we jump into that, I do want to do our question of the day. And today's question is, it's a deep one, because I figured since we're talking about purpose, we might as well talk about this. So what scares you most about your future? And as I was thinking about this, the first thing that came to mind for sure was wasted potential. So the thing that scares me the most about my future is not living up to my potential. There's so many things that I want to do. There's so many things that I believe that I can do. And sometimes I get in my head. I feel like I'm in over my head. I feel like, is this really possible? Should I really be doing this? And when all is said and done, I don't want to leave this earth feeling like, I should have did this or I should have done that. I wish that I was able to do this. So wasted potential for sure is the thing that scares me about my future. Not even achieving all of these things and being able to create the life that I want, but it's the idea of not living up to my potential. So that is definitely the thing that scares me the most about my future. You all know the drill by now. Make sure that you leave your answer in the comment section if you're watching this on my YouTube channel, or you can answer it in my stories on Instagram at Angel C. Walston. All right, so let's get into this topic of finding your purpose in an influencer-driven world. And I wanted to do this specific topic because I feel like in this day and age, there are so many people who have a platform. I'm definitely one of those people. And as a result of that, there is this influencer culture that has taken place. And I'll be the first to say I don't consider myself an influencer, but there definitely is a platform that I have that I'm aware of, that I have a responsibility to. And as a result of this influencer culture that is taking place now, I feel like there's so many people who are sharing how they've become successful in this influencer space, how they make a certain amount of money. And for others looking from the outside in, it can feel like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to be rich, I want to make all this money, I want to have all these people following me. And as a result of that, I believe that it can create this mindset of wanting to be a part of something that you really may not be called to, or wanting to be a part of something for the look of it, the appeal of it, but not really being in a position to carry what comes with that. In addition to this, I do think that the influencer culture that is very prevalent right now, and I'm not knocking it. I don't think it's a bad thing in its entirety. I don't think everybody is meant to be in that space. But as a result of this space that has been created for a lot of people, you may feel as though I want to do something. I want to do something with my life specifically. And I feel like everyone is kind of falling into this lane that I don't really feel like I'm a part of, or I don't really feel as though this is what I'm called to, or this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And let me tell you, that is 100% okay. I feel like there are a lot of people who really push entrepreneurship, and I'll be the first person to say I am not knocking entrepreneurship, none whatsoever. That is something that I am interested in myself, but not everybody is called to be an entrepreneur. And when you have people who are constantly pushing you to start something or to be something that is putting you in the forefront as a leader, whatever it might be, when that's not what you're called to, or when that's not what you really want to do, it can feel as though, where do I fit in this world, in this space, when everybody is showing up as the CEO, everyone is showing up as the influencer, everyone is showing up as the entrepreneur, and you may feel as though you don't see a space for you, or you feel that you should be trying to be a part of something that you don't really want to be. And so I want to have this conversation with you all because I think it's important to understand that just as it is important to have someone who is running the business, it's also important to have employees. It's also important to have people who are in a space where they can help someone else to fulfill the vision. If you feel like God is calling you and leading you to be in the space where you are leading, that is awesome. Go for it. I'm here for it. I love to see it. But if you don't, there's also nothing wrong with that. And I think that there's too many conversations that are directed in the space of you should be doing your own thing. You should be starting this. You should be being this. You should be doing this. When truly there are people who are called to help those people to start their vision, to fulfill the vision, to execute it. And there's room for you too. You're not behind or missing out or not living up your purpose if you're not starting a business or if you're not a part of this influencer culture. There's nothing wrong with that. So with all of that being said, I wanted to have this conversation because I know that there are a lot of people who, when you hear the word purpose, it's definitely a buzzword, right? Like we hear this talked about a lot. And sometimes it can feel like I see everybody else living their dreams. I see everybody else doing the things that they want to do. And I'm over here just trying to figure it out. Like, I really don't know what my purpose is here on this earth. I really don't know what it is that I should be doing. I really don't know what it is that I want to do. And you're figuring it out as you go. Or maybe you're just in a space where you're trying to figure it out, but you're like, Angel, I don't even know where to start. Let's talk about it. Let's have a conversation. So y'all know that I'm a definition girl. So, I looked up the definition for purpose, and it is defined as the reason for which something exists or is done, made, used, etc. And so I want to discuss with you all today a couple of things to help you to get into that space of figuring out what your purpose is. I don't want to make the assumption that everyone is aware, but just in case you are not, I am a Christian. My faith is something that is a huge part of who I am. And so in having the conversation regarding purpose, I cannot talk about purpose and not include my faith in that. And so as we're talking about different things to help you to discover your purpose, so for me personally, the thing that helped me to start the whole journey of me learning my purpose was developing a relationship with God. So once I started to grow in my relationship with God, that's when I started to discover what is my purpose? What was I created for? And I strongly encourage people, if you're in a space where you're trying to figure out what your purpose is, start with your creator. Because remind you, the definition of purpose is the reason for which something exists or is done, made, used, etc. The creator reveals the purpose of his creations. It's so important for us to be able to seek God on, what did you create me for? I always think about it in the sense of whenever you are putting something together, it always comes with instructions. It tells you how to use it. It tells you how to put it together. It tells you what its purpose is, how it functions. Much more differently is it for us to seek what our instructions are for our purpose, what our purpose is from God, because he's going to give you the direction. He's going to give you the instruction. And so when I say seek God for your purpose, this can be through prayer. This can be through you fasting. This can be through you reading your word. It can come in a lot of different ways. Don't miss what it is that God is trying to show you about your purpose because it doesn't look the way that you thought it would, or because it doesn't come in the package that you thought that it would. Brief little story time. I remember that this was maybe back in 2011, 2012, when God showed me that I would have a women's ministry. I was like, no, hard pass, hard no on that. No, thank you, sir. I did not sign up for this. This is not what I want to do. And a large part of that was because my relationships, specifically my friendships with other women, was an area that I greatly struggled in. And so for me, it felt like, how am I going to serve other women when this has been an area that I have struggled in desperately for years? It did not make sense to me. But here's the thing. This is the thing that I love most about God, is that he used Change Hearts, my women's ministry, to heal me even in that process. And so sometimes we can talk ourselves out of our purpose because we feel like, I'm not qualified. We feel like, God, I am not in a position to talk to other people about X, Y, or Z because I was going through X, Y, or Z. But God has a way of using your testimony to restore, to heal, to bring people into the knowledge of salvation through Jesus Christ. He has the ability to use the things that you have been through to heal you in those things and then position you to be able to go out and help other people, other women, to be whole, be healed, and be authentic. And that is the reason why I push that so much this season, because when I think about being whole, when I think about being healed, when I think about being authentic, those are the three things that have really helped me to walk in purpose. Those are the things that have really helped me to really come into who I am as a woman, who it is that God has created me to be, and to be able to have a platform such as my podcast, to be able to share with other women and encourage other women to find that as well. Let me tell y'all, when it comes to purpose, one of the things that sets my soul on fire, that makes me so happy and excited and fulfilled, is seeing other women answer the call of God, to see other women walking in their purpose and really being authentic to that. That is something that does my heart so well on so many levels. And I get excited about it because when you're able to walk in purpose, that is when you are most effective. That is when you are most impactful. That is when you are really in your bag and your secret sauce, and you are really able to impact people in a way that you can reach them as your true authentic self, as you are, not pretending to be somebody else, versus trying to be in a lane that God never called you to, or trying to be someone that God has never called you to. There's something about really getting settled and really getting comfortable in who it is that God has called you to be, because it really just, it's like this awakening that happens. You can feel yourself just settling in to this space of who, this is who God created me to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And let me be very clear, that can evolve. I'm not saying that your purpose is one thing. I really love how her name is Brittany Jack. It pays to know Brittany Jack on Instagram. She talks about how your purpose is a theme. You're allowed to be multifaceted. Don't feel like your purpose is this one thing. And if you feel like God is shifting you, or he's opening even another level of what your purpose is, that, oh, I missed it, or this isn't it because I'm supposed to be doing this. Don't get stuck in your own mindset or your own thinking of how you feel that God can use you. Because when you allow him to truly just take the reins, allow him to really show you what it is that he wants you doing, how it is that he wants you walking in purpose, he will truly begin to show you the different facets of who it is that he's called you to be. He will begin to show you how he has truly created you with a purpose in mind, and the different ways that that purpose can help to serve and help to heal people. It's so important, especially for us as believers, as we are trying to figure out our purpose, for us to start with the Creator. It's so important. I cannot stress that enough, because that is truly going to set the groundwork, the foundation of how you build upon your purpose. Once you get the foundation right, you already have everything that you need to build upon, because your foundation is stable, it is sturdy, it is solid. And so I want to encourage you, I literally cannot stress it enough. Allow yourself the time to get quiet before God, to seek God and ask him, God, what is it that you've created me to be? What is my purpose here? That is the best place to start. Now, once you go from there, I'm going to be fully transparent with you. Sometimes as God is revealing your purpose to you, it is not going to come with steps A through Z. It's usually not that simple. It's usually not that pretty and perfectly packaged. Sometimes he will give you point A. It might take a little time before he gives you a step B. It might take a little bit more time before he gives you step C. But the thing is being obedient. So a lot of times we want A through Z, but if God were to show you what was at the end of Z, you'd be like, nah, I ain't doing that. I'm not cut out for this. We would come up with so many different excuses and reasons as to why we cannot do it, that we would never even start point A. And so sometimes we don't even realize that God is simply protecting us from from self-sabotaging. Hello, somebody. Because he knows that if he were to really show us everything, it would blow our minds and we would convince ourselves that we're not good enough for this. Who am I to help people? Who am I to encourage people? Who am I to be a mouthpiece? Who am I? We would have all of these different reasons, but all you need to do is to obey the first instruction, and then he will give you the next instruction. And as you are going through that stage, you will then be able to gain clarity on what your next steps are. And I want to spend some time talking about that because I believe that clarity is one of the biggest things that people struggle with. A lot of times we are talking about, I need more clarity, I need more direction, I don't know where to go from here, I don't know where to start, I don't really know what I'm doing. Listen, the thing about clarity is that sometimes, not all the time, so if this don't apply to you, you ain't got to take it, but if it do, trust that I'm saying this from a space of love, okay? This is a safe space. Y'all know I always say that before I say something that's like gonna wreck you and snatch your edges just a little bit. Sometimes the issue is not that we don't have clarity. Sometimes the issue is that you know exactly what it is that you need to do, but either you don't want to do it, you're not ready to commit to it, or you don't believe in it. Take that in, let it sit for a minute. Let's break that down. Sometimes the issue is not that you don't know what your purpose is. It's actually been revealed to you. It actually may even be very clear to you, but for whatever reason, you are rejecting it. You are running from it because you don't feel like you're the person to do it. You don't feel like you're the person who can see this thing through. You don't feel like you are the person who is qualified for it. You don't feel like you are the person who should be stepping into this position. You don't feel like you are the person for whatever reason. We can go on and on for all of the reasons why this cannot be it. I've already shared with y'all when God showed me what I would be doing with Change Hearts. I was like, yeah, no, it's a hard pass for me. I'm not the one for this. I don't like talking to people. You know, I'm introverted. We will use introverted for every single excuse in the book. I am the first one to use an introvert excuse. But listen, sometimes the issue is not that you lack clarity, it's that you lack acceptance. Can we talk about that thing? The issue is not that you lack clarity in your purpose, you just have not accepted what it is. You're not yet in a position where you are willing to fully accept that God has called you and created you for this right here. And until you are at a place where you're willing to accept it, you're going to keep looking for it in spaces that you feel like are acceptable in your mind, in your eyes. And you got to understand that what you think is acceptable is typically very small in comparison to what God has for you. And so I want to encourage you that as you are seeking God for your purpose, to be open to what it is that he wants to reveal to you about what that may look like. Don't make excuses for yourself, and not even just don't make excuses. Stop being small. We've talked about this before. Stop minimizing who you are. Stop putting yourself in a position where you are not willing to take up space. Stop acting as though you're not good enough because who told you that? Take that out of your vocabulary, because as a child of God, it does not matter what you have done, what you have been through. None of those things disqualify you. So remove the limiting mindset that says, because I'm this, or because this has happened to me, there's no way that I can be that. Because God can take your this and use it for your that in a way that will be able to be transformational, not just for your life, but all those who are connected to you and who will be impacted by you. I ain't trying to preach to y'all. I'm just trying to get y'all to get out of your own head and get out of your own way and stop playing with you. Stop playing with you. I have been posting that on pretty much almost all of my social media posts, because at some point you have to step outside of yourself and stop playing around with your purpose. Stop playing around with who it is that you are in God, because you have to understand that nobody looks at you through the same lens that you look at yourself. So you may look at yourself as someone who is broken, who is unqualified, who has been defeated, who has been through all of these different things, where someone can look at you from the outside and be like, wow, she's an overcomer. She is resilient. She perseveres. Listen, do y'all hear what I am saying right now? This is so important because we're so worried about what people are going to think about us and how people are going to receive whatever it is that we're putting out, that we don't even start it because we're so worried that it's going to be taken in the wrong way. We're so worried that people are going to look at it and be like, oh, she shouldn't even be talking about that. We're so worried that people are going to compare who we are now, who is a completely different person at times, someone who has evolved, someone who has healed, someone who has grown. And we're worried about what people are going to say who went to high school with us. Girl, what? Not on my watch in my best Iyanla Vanzant impersonation. No, it was impression. That was the right. Listen, you have to get out of your own way and you have to get out of your head because you are allowing yourself to stall the very thing that God desires to do in you right now because you think it's not good enough. You think that you don't deserve to be in this space. Baby, we are taking up space 2021, all 2021 and beyond, because you deserve to be here. You deserve to walk in purpose. You deserve to be every single thing that God has called you to be. And I'm going to put my fear on y'all in regards to the question of the day. I do not want to see any of you to waste potential in this season because you are so caught up in what you think you're not good enough for, what you feel like people are not going to receive, what you think doesn't matter, what you think is not important, that you miss every single person that God has attached to your obedience by allowing yourself to think small of yourself. We serve a big God, so why are we thinking small of ourselves when He created us? Come on now. I want you to stop thinking small of yourself. The other thing, and going back to clarity, I'm so far off of my notes, y'all, but I felt like that needed to be said. So we gonna let that stay in there. We ain't editing out a thing, okay? The other thing about clarity, for some of you, it's hard for you to find your purpose because you got too many options. Let me explain. You trying to do this, you trying to do that, you trying to do this, you trying to do that. You have way too many things that you are trying to do, and it's all over the place. I say this with love. It is difficult for people to pick up what you're putting down when you putting down 15 things. They don't know what to pick up. They don't know what you're doing. They don't know what you're talking about. You have to be very clear about what it is that you're doing. We make the mistake of trying to appeal to everybody. We're trying to be a little something for everybody. Listen, I've always said I am not everybody's cup of tea. And I am okay with that because I prefer water anyways. Listen, you don't have to be everything to everyone because with your purpose is geared towards a specific group. And it is okay if your group that you were created for is group F and group Z don't like what you're doing. You're not for group Z, and that is perfectly okay. When you try to appeal to everybody, you have to understand that you're not in your lane because your lane ain't for everybody. So if you're over here trying to be something to Sister Spandex, and Sister Spandex really isn't your audience, Sister Spandex really ain't who you're called to, you're missing Sister Susie over here because you trying to give a little bit to Sister Spandex, a little bit to Sister Susie, a little bit to Sister Keisha, and it's like, who is it that you're supposed to be focusing on? Who is it that you are actually called to serve? We have to get clear on that because otherwise we're just literally throwing things at the wall to see if it'll stick with this person, if it'll stick with that person. That can be very confusing. Don't focus on appealing to everybody. Focus on appealing to who you are called to because that is where you're going to be the most effective. You have to understand that you can be talented in a lot of different areas. You can do a lot of things very well. That does not mean that you have to be in all of those areas all the time and speak to all of those people in all of those things. I said, I believe it was in the first episode of this season, do not confuse what you are good at, what you like to do with what you're called to do is not mutually exclusive. An example of this is I do makeup very well. I have no interest in teaching people how to do makeup. I have no business in teaching people how to do makeup. That ain't the purpose here. That's not what I'm called to. There are people who they have beauty channels. That is what they're called to. That is their gifting. It's not just a talent. Like that's their thing. Although I can do it well, I know that that's not my lane. That's not what that audience specifically is not who I'm called to. And I'm okay with that. That doesn't mean I have to stop doing makeup. But for me personally, I know that it's not going to serve my audience well for me to do beauty videos. Could I do them? Yes. Would it get views? Absolutely. But ultimately, is that really fulfilling to me? Is that really what I should be doing? Is that really within my purpose? No, just because I can do it, that does not mean that that's what I have to do or that's a part of my purpose because it's something that I'm good at. What I am good at, what fulfills me, what brings me joy, what sets my soul on fire, what I get excited about is spaces like this where I'm able to encourage women, where I'm able to talk to women and teach them how to be whole, be healed, and walk in the authenticity of who it is that God created them to be, because I love seeing women being their authentic selves and really walking in who God created them to be. I love it where you're not comparing yourself to someone else, when you're not trying to be somebody else, but you're able to really just sit and settle in who you are. I love it. That is it for me. I love getting to serve women in this space, in this capacity. That's my lane. That's my thing. That's what I do well. That's what I am excited about. That's what God gives me vision for. And I love being in this space. And so I share all of that to say, I want you to find that space for yourself. And in trying to find that space, don't try to be something to everybody. You're not going to miss people because you don't appeal to what they want. When you get very clear about who it is that God has created you to be, and when you get very clear on how to navigate that space, God will send you the people who are perfect for that space. He will send you the people who you can serve, because that's ultimately what it's about. Your purpose is about who can I serve? And so that brings me to my next point of what is the thing that you have a burden for? So when you're thinking about your purpose, I truly believe that everybody has a burden for something in some form or fashion. So for me, and let me clarify, when I say burden, what is something that grieves your heart? What is something that when you think about it or you see it or you spot it, it just like you can feel it on the inside of you. For me personally, the thing that I have a burden for is women. And to go deeper than that, the thing specifically, when I talk about wholeness and healing, the reason why that grieves my heart is because I was in a space where I was not whole. I was in a space where I needed to go through a full healing and allow God to really empty me of a lot of things. And prior to getting to the other side of that, I felt like I was stuck in cycles that it seemed like this is the norm. So this is how things are going to be because this is how it's always been. And when I was able to get to the other side of it, I was able to see there's something on the other side of this. I don't have to stay in this space. Change is possible for me. I can be whole outside of a relationship. Relationships was something that was a struggle for me for a long time. I can fully be healed. I don't have to carry around the weights and burdens. I can fully be my authentic self without trying to be someone else. Comparison, I don't have to look to other people to try and mimic what they're doing, but who I am is enough. And God chose me in spite of me to be able to do the things that He has allowed me to do. And so as a result of all of that, I truly can see. Let me give this example so it becomes even more clear. My life coach, Shanita, love her. She's amazing. I will always say this. Her and I were having a conversation during one of my sessions, I think maybe like a year ago. And one of the things she said was that she knows that she is called to help Black women teach them how to self-care and how to take care of themselves. And she said something that was funny, but it was like, oh my gosh, I get that so much. And that was, she's like, I can be walking around and I can just see Black women stressed out. Like I can just spot it. I can see it. I have a burden for it. And when I tell you, I can see when women are struggling with self-esteem, with low self-value, not knowing their self-worth, not knowing that they are qualified. I can see that, I can feel that, I can sense that, I can feel the burden for it. Take it even a step further. I can literally sense and feel potential that is laying dormant. And there are women who I literally am connected to and are drawn to, because it's like I can see that there is something that is so unique, so special, so powerful on the inside of you. And I can also see that you don't believe that. You are not yet at a place where you really recognize what God has placed on the inside of you. And you're not at a place where you are able to fully walk in the authenticity of that because you feel like you're not good enough. You feel like you are not qualified. That is the burden for me, to be able to teach women to say, no ma'am, there is something that is amazing on the inside of you. You can do this. Not only can you do this, you are going to be successful in it. You are qualified for this. You are on the right path. You are in your element. I love affirming women in those things, because so often we look for affirmations in so many other places that we feel as though I can't do this or I'm not able to do this. When you are able to be affirmed, but not just from a place of I'm affirming you because I have an ulterior motive, but I'm affirming you because what I see in you, I know is real. What I see in you, I know it's a God thing. And to be able to see women actually execute and to get the confidence that comes with really being in their purpose, really being in their lane, that does it for me. That is the burden for me. That is what excites me. That is my why. Because when women are able to get past the self-worth, the self-issue, all of those issues, all of that negative self-talk, all of those different things that are saying, I can't do this, I'm not qualified for this, I'm not cut out for this, I shouldn't be doing this, I'm in over my head. All of those different things. When you are able to get over that hurdle, when you are able to execute, when you are able to actually do the thing that you thought you could not do, when you are finally in that space, when you are in your purpose, it is nothing like it. And I love being able to help other women to get to the other side, because I know what it felt like to be on the opposite side when I felt like I wasn't good enough. I know what that feels like. And so to be able to help and encourage other women really be their authentic selves and to really walk in purpose and to really allow God to show them things that they felt like was impossible, that they felt like little old me, I get to do this. To be able to help people to get to that space. I love that. I love it so much. Just in case you cannot tell, one more time for the people in the back. I love that. And so I want you to ask yourself, what is that thing for me? There's something that excites you. And let me also say this. You have to be motivated by something other than money. I know that, especially looking at influencers, people are in their bag. People are making money. I'm not hating on it. I ain't mad at it. Do you, boo? But at the end of the day, your why cannot simply be fueled by money. I get it. Why? I got bills to pay. I need to make money. I absolutely get that 100%. For sure. I got you. But money at the end of the day is not going to be what fulfills you. There has to be something more behind it. And as we're talking about this thing of finding your purpose in an influencer-driven world, understand that whether your purpose is being a doctor, whether it's being a beautician, a makeup artist, a blogger, whatever it might be, you can create a space where you have women come together once a month and you have I don't know, something where you all can just talk about life together. Everything ain't a business. Like I said, I'm here for the whole entrepreneurship and all of that, but everything doesn't have to be a business. It can be something that truly just sets your soul on fire. If you want to start a business, all right, cool. That's awesome. I'm not knocking it, but don't feel like it has to be this whole big production. What is it that fuels you? What is it that you have a burden for? Start looking at that, because there's something powerful there when you're at a place where you are really starting to ask yourself, how and who is it that I can serve? And what can I do to best serve these people? That's something whenever I'm doing podcasts, whenever I'm doing YouTube, whenever I'm posting something on social media, in my mind, how am I able to best serve the people who are connected to whatever I'm doing, whether they're a subscriber, whatever it might be? How can I best serve them? Because that is another source of motivation. The last thing I want to say is comparison is a scam. One more time for the people in the back. Comparison is a whole scam. I cannot say it any other way. Comparison is a whole scam. And the reason why this is so important in discovering your purpose is because for some of you, you're not in your purpose. You're not in your lane because you are on the wrong side of the road in somebody else's lane. You are in somebody else's purpose, trying to do what they did because it looked good for them. It worked for them. They made a bunch of money from it. So let me jump on this as well. If that's not what you are called to do, you can put yourself in a position where you're doing something that it worked for somebody else. They really loved it. They really enjoyed it. But you over here miserable. You don't even like it. And you're putting in all of this work and you're wondering, well, why is it not working for me? Maybe it's not supposed to work for you. Maybe that's not where you need to be. So I shared, I believe, actually, I don't know which episode it was. I think it maybe was Destination Addiction, where I talked about the mentorship that I did, Bold Faith Brave Warrior mentorship that I did about a year and a half ago. And in that, I said I would talk a little bit more about this. So for those of you who don't know, I have a ministry, Change Hearts, where I do YouTube videos every once in a while. And it really is a place to just encourage people to surrender their lives to Jesus and to live wholeheartedly for him. And so I've been doing Change Hearts since 2012. And I felt like there was another component of Change Hearts that I wasn't really sure what that looked like, what it was that I was supposed to be doing. And I saw during that time, I noticed that a lot of other women of faith were doing mentorships. And so there was a part of me that felt like let me also say this, full transparency. I did want to do it prior to that as well, but I just wasn't sure what that looked like. And I've never been comfortable with doing anything in regards to monetizing the gospel. And so a part of the reason why I steered clear of it for a long time was because I did not want to have a mentorship that I was charging people for that was gospel centered. And so I did do some like one-on-one coaching with a couple of women that was somewhat more so like life coaching that there was a charge for. I will say that, but the mentorship as a whole was free. And so when I started that mentorship, I went into it thinking like this, I'm going to be in my purpose. Like this is it. I'm going to love this. This is going to be so amazing. And what I realized maybe like 2-3 weeks in was that this ain't it. And it's not that, like I said, it wasn't an issue of me not enjoying working with the women. That was never the problem. I had a great group of women who were a part of the mentorship, but in that specific setting, that was not what I was called to do. That was not really a part of the purpose of Change Hearts. And I realized that I was trying to do something that I was seeing other people doing who they were successful in it, but that wasn't what God told me to do. It was something that I felt like was a God idea that was like, yes, we're going to do this. Even had a wait list for the next semester of it. That thing never started because I was like, this ain't it. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing, God. And did we finish it out? Absolutely, because I am a very firm on completing your commitments and staying true to your commitments. But let me also say this. You can end up committed to something long term that God never told you to do, and there can be consequences for it. I'm not saying I had consequences with the Bold Faith Brave Warrior mentorship, because I definitely feel like it served its purpose. I do believe that during that time, God still used it, but it also showed me that I'm trying to walk in a lane that God didn't call me to, but because I saw other women of faith who were doing it and they were successful in it, and it's like, oh, well, let me try this. But that's not what God was calling me to do. And so I share that because a lot of times as we're trying to figure out what our purpose is, we tend to look and see what is working for other people. But guess what? You're not other people. You are you. You are who God created you to be. And so instead of looking to see what other people are doing, look at what is it that God is calling you to do in this season. Because just because you see specifically other people of faith doing something and successful at it, they may be in their lane. And no shade, no tea. There are people who are doing things and is successful, but is not successful because of God. So keep that in mind as well, because there are definitely a lot of people who are doing a lot of things right now. Everybody has a platform. Everybody is doing something. Everybody has a voice. And just because you have a platform, just because you have a lot of followers, just because you have a lot of money, that does not necessarily mean that a person is in their purpose. It does not necessarily mean that a person is successful. It definitely does not mean fully that God is the one who has blessed them with all of that. And let me also say this as well. It doesn't mean the opposite either. There are people who are very much so in their purpose. They are in their lane. They are doing what God has called them to do, and they are successful. They are wealthy. They are doing things that are that is bringing God glory, and there's nothing wrong with that. So it really does go twofold. But the purpose in me saying all of this is to take your eyes off of what everybody else is doing and get very clear about what it is that God has told you to do, because your purpose is for you. It's not going to look like anyone else's. And don't get caught up in the fact that God told me to do this, but I feel like everybody is already doing this. I said that about starting a podcast. I put off starting a podcast for years because everybody else has a podcast. Okay, now Angel has a podcast too. And what? Stop focusing on what everybody else is doing, how everything is saturated. I always give this example. Miss Fenty, Robin Fenty, aka Rihanna. Listen, imagine if Rihanna was like, I'm not going to get into the makeup business because there's several people who have, these makeup brands. Why would I do that? Hers is successful, out of this world successful. Imagine if Fenty Beauty never started because Rihanna felt like the makeup industry is oversaturated and she didn't have a place in it. Don't do that. Okay. Don't miss out on what it is that God is telling you to do because you get into your head, you talk yourself out of it. We are not sabotaging in 2021 nor beyond. All right. So just understand that as you are figuring out what it is that you are called to do, what your purpose is, be okay with starting somewhere, learning that that may not be it, and pivoting. There's nothing wrong with pivoting. There's nothing wrong with adjusting. There's nothing wrong with changing. There's nothing wrong with evolving. There's nothing wrong with growing. There's nothing wrong with rebranding. There's literally nothing wrong with trying, starting, and being like, hey, okay, I thought this is the path that I was supposed to go on, but I'm realizing it's actually something else. So let me pivot and try this something else. And then we're going to fully commit to that. And we're going to go from there. You have to start somewhere, and know that as you start, you'll watch your journey unfold, and it will be something that you will literally look back and be like, I wish I would have started this back in 1985. Like, I don't know why that was my go-to year, but you have to start somewhere. And don't get caught up in the influencer life of I have to start a blog, or I have to start this, or I have to start that. Sometimes your starting may be within your job at your 9 to 5. You have no idea how your purpose is not just simply attached to the internet. It's not just attached to your church. It's attached to the people who you encounter every single day. And you have the ability to make impact and have influence where you are, at your house, in your neighborhood, in space that you occupy. So don't allow this whole influencer driven time that we are in right now to make you feel like, oh, I got to start a blog, I got to start YouTube, I got to do this, I got to do that. If that's what God told you to do, absolutely go for it. I love to see it. I'm here for it. I support you. If that's not what he's told you to do and it's something else, that is okay too. Be willing to show up in that something else fully. Be willing to show up whatever it is that he's calling you to do. Be willing to do it and do it well. I hope that this has been helpful for you all. I hope that you've been encouraged by it. And do not forget to share it with your friend, share it with a girlfriend who needs to hear this, who needs to be encouraged by this. And until next time, don't forget to be whole, be healed, and be authentic. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into a Change of Heart podcast. I hope you were encouraged, and please take a moment to share with a girlfriend, and don't forget to download the episode. Lastly, I would love to connect with you. You can follow me on Instagram at Angel C. Walston and at A Change of Heart podcast. Have an amazing week, and don't forget, be whole, be healed, and be authentic.